Okay. Okay, we will go ahead and start the July 22nd, 2026 board meeting. Very first thing we have on our agenda, as we always do at the very first board meeting of the fiscal year, is to appoint the 2026-2027 officers, president, vice president, and secretary. This is this one. But here are the roles and duties of these positions. And so everyone on the board has been through this before, but right now, if you would like to nominate someone else or nominate yourself for these positions, I'll open up to the board to discuss.
Do we have to, well, I guess I would nominate and be happy that if Chrissy would like to take on the president role again, so I would nominate, if assuming she's interested in wanting to do that and take it on again. I've only been here for a year, but I would see nothing but hard work and commitment, and so I have no issues whatsoever and full support of you maintaining that role.
My second.
Thank you.
I would nominate Mike Howard for vice president. You guys have done an amazing job, and I love the passion that both of you have with the work, so
I'll second.
All right. And then anyone want to be secretary?
Well, I was thinking of nominating Brian.
Oh.
If he's willing to, but unless someone is very eager to.
I'm fine, I'm happy to support all the way.
I'll do whatever I need to do, but
No, I thought we decided this last meeting.
No.
You're just gonna sign a lot of stuff every meeting.
That was-
That was about the committees and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Oh, maybe not.
No, you're right. Okay, I'm back. I will, with great privilege and honor, accept the nomination. I don't know where that was going.
I second that.
All right, well, this is what happens when you don't have a president to keep things in line.
Yeah.
There's kind of three different motions on the table with all nominees and everything. But I think that we should probably just call it one motion nominating
Slate of candidates as identified.
yes, the slate of, and could I get whoever proposes and seconds that for the records?
Oh, got it.
Mm.
I propose Christie as president, Mike as vice president, and Brian as secretary. Take a second.
I second.
All right, all in favor?
I
Is that good?
Yep, we got it.
Normal.
Say Martha seconded, they
Yeah.
both, but
Yeah.
that way we got two people that are not.
The motion.
Yep.
That's my grand plan.
Yeah. That's
Excellent. It's all coming to fruition.
First.
Secretary. Now, the president take over that.
American thing stop it.
Cool.
Awesome.
Okay, well, we are next going on to comments from the general public. Let's switch it up this time and start with folks online. We do a few folks
Yep,
online.
there are two people online. If you would like to comment, please raise your hand. And we will have the ability for you to comment. We'll give you a little bit of time to find that hand button if you'd like to comment. And I'm not seeing any hands of the two attendees here for comment. And if you do want to comment, raise your hand and I'll check back with you after we check and all this stuff.
And we have one person.
I'm just keeping tabs.
Okay. Okay, well, still no hands raised, so I think we should close that.
Okay, we can close public comment
Okay.
and move on to item 3, reviewing the minutes from June 24th. Does anyone have any?
I looked at this morning, anything fine to me. Agreed.
Okay, take a motion.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from June 24th,
Second.
2026.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Great. All right, Mark, looks like you're covering the next item.
Okay. This is resolution 2627-1. A resolution to set the meeting dates for the year. This is just kind of a housekeeping item that is part of state law. So we just have to set up with our regular meeting dates. Our regular meeting dates are the third Wednesday of every month, unless otherwise noted. And we did note that this first one is not the third meeting, but we noticed that online on our website. So
December is
Yeah.
16th, not 19th. That's Saturday.
Mm,
okay. Thank you. I will update that in the resolution as well, because in the resolution then it has the wrong date. Because I copied this from that. So,
And then
okay.
all them.
I'm checking all
I
of them.
checked some of them, but not every single
The
one.
March one.
December, I went through May, my calendar expired. Dang it.
Thank you for double checking that.
But yeah, just the December one was on. So I put forward a motion to approve the resolution as amended with this December 16th date for our board meetings for the 2026-2027 fiscal year.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, full project.
Full project update. So, RFPs were due today at 3 o'clock. We received 8 proposals, which is
Sweet.
awesome. Especially since it was a little bit shorter RFP, we had a tighter timeline, but we had opening on July 1st, had 8 proposals, so that's great. So the next steps, we have a selection committee that will narrow down a short list to interview. And then the committee will forward that recommendation to the board. And right now, we're thinking of a special meeting on Friday, July 31st. We normally don't have Friday meetings, but we'll do it during the day, likely like that 3 or 4 or something like that in the afternoon if people are available. If not, we can find another time in there, but trying to do a time when we can select them. And if we have to, we can do first week in August, one of those early days in August as well.
I may not be available the 31st.
Okay.
Okay. Good enough to-
I think I have availability that day.
Okay.
For me, it depends on the time.
Yep. Well, we can either figure it out right now if we want to figure out a time, or we can figure out another date and just do kind of a meeting out, but we'll just try and do figure out the notification around that. That was kind of a tentative time, just because we're going to be doing the interviews and have the selection committee, and if anything happens, like last time with the selection committee wanted more feedback from the board and such, then we just push it a little bit further down. But we do have to notice that 24 hours in advance, and so if the selection committee is meeting on Thursday, we'll probably notice something anyways on that Friday or the following Monday, so.
That 31st meeting would, I mean, really could just be a Zoom though, right?
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
Yes, it would just be probably a 10-minute
Yeah.
Zoom meeting, just to confirm.
What everyone else.
And-
It won't be 10 minutes.
Yep.
I just feel like with our group, it won't be 10 minutes, but maybe.
But it's just to essentially approve what everyone else has already done the work to
Okay.
figure out.
Yeah,
And is,
So I guess it could, I
There's
guess it could be.
is the
So
committee
hopefully-
only gonna bring to us one recommendation?
that is the goal, yeah.
Okay, great.
Yep,
Okay.
Probably with the team.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So I think 31st, if it's a Zoom, I could probably, that'd be fine.
Uh-huh.
If I,
okay.
I'd probably be in town, but definitely not. So big deal.
Is the first week in August, is that available for you? That
Mhm.
was
I mean, if it's before 10 AM, I can
on Friday?
zoom in
Mhm.
8 to 9, 9:30.
Okay,
Yeah, why don't we just plan like a 9
Yeah.
AM, 10?
I just,
Oh.
his funeral's at
That's
10
great.
AM
Okay.
and I don't.
That way, even if we're leaving town, whatever, that would be fine. So can we just do 9
Something
AM on that
Yep.
31st?
9 AM on 31st?
Okay.
Okay.
July.
Okay. The next thing we need to do, is, finalize the selection committee. We did most of this last, week. We said that we wanted to have 2 staff members, 2 board members. The staff members are Mark and Marcy. The 2 board members are Mike and Jace. and then 2 community members with experience in public construction projects. And you asked us to research and find 2. We brought 2 people to you today that we've talked to that are available to do this. One is Alan Schmidt, who you recognize from our budget committee. He's a landscape architect, worked for years for Metro Parks in Portland, and has done lots of large scale construction projects. The other person is Megan Channel. She is a capital development and planning director and has been a project manager and worked for ODOT doing a lot of really big, large scale construction projects as well. She's also a master's swimmer and uses so. They're both highly qualified and have done a lot of these things and will be kind of the experts in the room, plus their community members that use the facilities. So
Perfect.
okay, I will notify both of them, and we'll be sending out an email later tonight with all the information for them.
Some fun reading for the weekend.
All right. We'll move on. I'll turn this one over to Marcy and Christie. Vacation plan update.
I think you're starting
Yes.
and then I'll do.
So just a broad overview of the communications plan following the 2024 election where we had 2 failed measures. We realized that we had some work to do in the communication arena. So we developed a communication plan that focused on all of the ways that we communicate and message and hear from the public. So it includes outreach, input, verbally, written in all its forms. And just a few things of, kind of what we've done over the past year. So we've created a lot of new channels for how we're communicating to the people. And it's not just our regular users. We've really tried to engage all people in our district, including people who don't use our facilities or our services. This year, we have finally moved away from Mind Body, and that's our registration system that we've been using for years for the pool, for people admitting people to the pool. And we now have a new modernized, up-to-date registration system that helps with usability and getting people through the door. We've definitely strengthened our presence in the community. I think more people are aware of what we do and who we are and how we serve them. And then probably really importantly this year, we realized with all of the work that we needed to do that we needed to have insight from people in the community. So we established the advisory council, and they were really instrumental in this past year in helping to give us feedback, hone some of the priorities for the board. All the things that come along with a communications plan. We have a really small team here, so having the capacity to try to do all of the forms of communication is definitely a challenge. And so one thing I think that we'll definitely have to keep in mind as we're moving forward.
That's something that we're Nancy and Kate, their time and commitment, wanting to commitment and be a bigger part. Would that be a good fit for them? Of that, from everyone's perspective? Seems like it could be.
Yes.
Or do you
I
not want
think
it to be a volunteer role? Is that the other issue?
Hard. We won't.
Volunteer role being an issue.
Yes, I think that there are definitely some key areas where Nancy and Kate can continue to play a role. And perhaps as we get into some of it, it could be really helpful, like particularly with our PSAs.
Yep.
And possibly continuing to be like, these are the things that we're hearing in the community. And one thing that was really helpful, I think, on the PAC side was continuing to be that positive voice on the social media channels. And so we sometimes we face challenges there. So having somebody helping to monitor that and helping to be that voice of positive information, positive and factual information could be a really great way for them to plug in.
And then on the right side shows kind of a summary of updates or changes. So the communication plan is a giant spreadsheet. I think you saw it all 2 years ago, and we went through and basically just did a refresh of it. Didn't add a whole bunch of items, but did consider capacity, as we thought we had before too, but just, 2 years down the road, then you have a better sense of what is the true capacity here. And also increased focus on reaching the general public, like that's so needed. There's a lot that's done in that, but it's hard. It's hard to reach people who are not trying to follow the information, right? So these are kind of updates, and there's a few items where as a board, we can be supportive. And so that's one of the main reasons to be talking about this today. So, just running through these super briefly with the district website, Marcy's working on getting some guidance on how we can just kind of streamline that a little bit, not a website redo, just kind of usability improvement.
And consistency.
Press releases will come out on the next slide for a little bit of support. Annual recap is an idea that's a new thing, but intended to be a start small. Considering capacity, so not a magazine of, all these updates, but an overall summary of what the district has done in the previous year. Mailer, it says improving there because we have done a few, but it's not yet at a consistent pace, right? Community meetings, we'll come to that on the next slide. Printed flyers. You all have, we all see the flyers out in town, but one thing that we identified could be improved, it's actually two things, I guess, is consistency kind of in formatting and potentially also having a little bit more information on one. So right now it's kind of each activity has its own flyer, so if you go to the table at First Friday, it might be 10 flyers there rather than like, here are all of the sports offerings for the next season. Just maybe easier to digest.
One
QR
stop, one stop shop.
Yeah, especially given that there's the administration software that is very easy to go to and look at the offerings, right? Program feedback surveys. Marcy, do you want to maybe just talk on that, or do you just?
Yes, so we are working, with different departments handle feedback in different ways, and so we're really going to be working this year to streamline that whole process, and moving everything online, with obviously giving people a paper option if they desire it, right? But really making all of our feedback online so that we can capture the data and use it in a productive fashion to make positive change. And so basically this year, we're going to be going through all of our feedback, making it consistent and going through that.
And then the last two will also have board involvement, just not today. Annual survey, so to, measure some feedback from the community on an annual cycle with some consistent questions. And so we all at a later meeting should provide some guidance to the district, like what do we want to measure? And then, everyone knows about the oversight committee that we're establishing that. So I think maybe go to the next slide, and then if there are any questions, because the next slide is more for discussion for us. So the first item, oversight committee and advisory council, something that we all can help with is sharing out that application. I believe our application numbers are still in the single digits, I think. I think we do have several, but I don't think it's over 10 yet. So, if direct invites tend to be especially effective. So reaching out to people or people to say, do you know anyone? So that's that on that item. I did say, I put the question of, should we consider extending the deadline? But perhaps we wait and see on the 31st. Where we have, because a lot of people often apply in the last few days,
Yeah.
right?
At times.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Often how people operate.
Okay. And then, okay, so the monthly newsletter item, so this had actually been an idea in the previous communication plan, but we hadn't really implemented it yet, so we're kind of revisiting this, and you can also, we can say, strike this idea too. The idea is to have a section from the board in each district monthly newsletter that goes out, whether it's a recap of the meeting, that's kind of like, here are the things we talked about, or like one main topic. Be kind of either, or it could vary month to month. And the question for us to talk about is, how do we want to approach that? Assuming we want, if it does sound good to you all. Do we have one representative write it? And they're just kind of, it's delegated to them and they work with staff to do that? Do we do the same thing, but make sure that everyone gets to see it and kind of just approve it? Or do we want to rotate that responsibility?
In a couple of ways of like how that might be implemented is, at our monthly board meeting, having a communication slot, right, on the agenda where we're just quickly saying either I'm in charge of this, or here's an idea for a topic, or, however you wanted to approach it, right? But our board meeting could be a place to have, so, we need to focus on this topic as something we want to share with the community.
Especially if that's at the end of the meeting.
I mean, generally, I'm not all that concerned with reviewing it, but I do think it'd be easiest to have in a meeting like that, so we can kind of approve it and just not have to email and do that other stuff.
Mhm.
It might get messy. And as for rotating roles, I mean, I think a consistent voice is good, but I could see the balance of having everyone take a turn, also being valuable.
So right now, there is a monthly newsletter, it's about quarterly.
There's a monthly newsletter, but not a section that's from the board.
Right, so typically the way our newsletter is set up, so we do our newsletter, I would say that we're averaging about nine to 10 newsletters a year.
Okay.
A little less than once a month, or a little more than once.
So what would the
Yeah.
board members offer that's not already in there?
So right now, the way that it's set up is that we have district news,
Yeah.
right? And so some of that district news could be reframed to come from not just the broader district perspective, but like this is from the voice. So it's, when you think about communication, the way that the way staff has been communicating is like, we're trying to be representative of the larger voice, but it's not really like the personalized board voice, if that makes sense. And so this would be a different aim to reach a different, it's a different vibe essentially in how people receive
And the
it.
idea is that we would then keep our presence in the minds of the electorate. Just as a voice, but also as someone who's working for their interests or theirs.
Yeah, and and it's a reminder that the district is operated by a set of board members, right? And I think sometimes it takes a lot of that reminder to continue to keep people engaged and keep people aware of what's going on.
So yeah, so I'm just, I'm trying to understand the workload. I mean, this would essentially be like a paragraph, a page, like, I mean, I can spit out a paragraph pretty
Sure.
quick, so I mean, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Yes,
trying
and I think that when we were talking about where could Nancy and Kate plug in, I think that one of the things that they did great was the letters to the editor, and they were really great at identifying voices, having a good voice and helping to have different topics,
A target.
right?
different-
Target different groups.
So my suggestion, or my, I guess, preference would be if you're gonna do something like this, or if we get with, and it could be, just ask a different board member each month to write something, and then either we all decide what that subject's gonna be, or you guys say, hey, this is the one we need to tackle this month that goes with the theme of this newsletter. And then, so, I mean, if you're saying, hey, write a paragraph on the pool, okay, cool. We'll write a paragraph on our rec programming, okay. Right, as long, I think if you just say, hey, write a paragraph, I think that's gonna just be too broad and blind and just kind of
Right.
just clue, I think, not really targeted how you want it to be.
I would say we could approve whatever was agreed upon the last month, so we talk about whatever got written, that we agreed upon. That's, the board has seen it, yeah, that sounds about right, and next month, whoever is taking that one, this is your target.
That's
So we're always kind of like piggybacking that way.
A little bit ahead.
So that gives a month to kind of put it together.
Is that how they're drafted? I mean, or is it?
yeah, does that work with you?
Most of the time when the newsletters are drafted, as the topics are coming up, right? And so we should be preparing for a new newsletter coming up in early August. And, my assumption is that there would be a paragraph or a topic on either our oversight committee, our advisory council, or the owner's representative, right? So it's like the progress that is being made towards the pool project. That is probably the biggest question we're getting. So something in that realm for that news.
Yeah, perfect. That's
Well, that would be though an example of something where that would be a primary topic in that newsletter anyway. So we probably wouldn't have. an
I mean,
additional section about it, but I guess we could.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that we need, I think that sometimes that the information coming from the board member or the board, however you
Yeah,
choose to do it, can be the district, it can be in lieu of the district information.
Well, or even support it, because I
Right,
can see
or
the
support
method being like, hey, we're doing this oversight committee, but if there's a little paragraph from the board member saying, hey, look, we really want you guys involved, like, we want you involved, not just, Marcy and Mark, like, we want you guys involved, and so please, we need some people to step up and blah, blah, blah.
It's a little board logic kind of behind whatever the other factual information is.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a great example of how it can support and enhance the communications, for sure.
Okay, so the idea bubbling up is to choose the topic. Let's say we're talking about present. We choose a topic at the end of this meeting, like in the good of the order, choose a topic. And then it is drafted and shared at the next meeting to go in that next newsletter.
Is that late then?
So it would be,
Feels like
it would be essentially late. So now, it could be that, for example, this next newsletter, that I've identified some topics that I think that we probably need to cover, right? Somebody could decide to say, I'm on it, right? Most people don't get their moments of inspiration until the final moment anyways, right? Or you could wait until the next month and you could work tonight to say, what things are we gonna need in the future? Usually, it does feel like most things are happening soon, like you're understanding the topics that need to be covered right before you have to cover them.
My 2 cents is at the end of the meeting or at some point, just have a quick discussion on what it's gonna be about, who's gonna write it that week or that month. And then that's it. And then maybe we just send a quick, here's everyone, this is what I wrote. If everyone, as long as no one really strongly objects, this is the message from Martha this month, or this is the message from Brian this month.
And, to help with that process, if there was a way where we knew who was identified, there could be like a standing document of like, these are the topics that we probably need to cover, because they do come up and you do kind of get that projection further in advance than like right now, right? So it could be that we have like a communication shared document that people see the topics that probably need to be covered so that they can begin percolating on, how to frame or address that type of topic and decide if that's the one they would cover.
And I think we leave the meeting knowing, okay, so this is who you're working with this month. So Marcy, email me, because we're gonna bounce you can tell me what's working here and what's not. And then just send it off to everybody and blast it and say, does anyone have an objection? So we don't have to waste time at the next meeting about it. Is that fair? And then the next meeting is on the next one.
And then I think I would prefer if it's done with that approach, that it's signed like by that specific
Yeah.
board member.
Yeah. It's away from the board logic a little bit because now we haven't really convened about it yet, so it's hard to speak for everyone.
I think it's better that it's rotating different, everyone has a chance to say their voice, and
Yeah.
even in the writing style, even just like each one's gonna be a little different.
Yeah.
And yeah. In a good
It's
way.
not my forte, but I will try.
There are editors who can help,
Thank you.
I mean, I think that can definitely be a good
Yeah.
staff to help, if you're like, I need some editing help, that's not a problem.
And then I think standing, we should have a link to the board meeting minutes in the.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
In that section,
Yeah.
yes.
That's great.
Hey,
idea.
this is what we,
Mhm.
if you wanna see, and then. And then would you have, I'm just trying to think of the council on that committee, would you have separate? Separate sections for each of those two bodies reporting out?
Probably the
Can you say that
the
again?
advisory council and the oversight.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Are you talking about how will we share the news on the advisory council
Yeah.
or the
Oh, well,
oversight?
I mean, more
committee? I
broadly.
guess,
But would it be in the news? I was thinking it would be in the newsletter. If it's not, totally cool. What I was just
I
trying.
think that it can be, I think that how, these are all really good questions and definitely an interesting part of the communication plan. How do we share the information? And,
I was trying to prejudge anything.
no, and I think you're bringing up a good question that needs to be addressed, and I don't know that I have the answer
Right now, yeah.
right now.
But I think something to keep in mind is they are advising the board.
Right.
Right, they are
Oh,
advising
yeah,
us.
yeah. Okay,
So in
we
theory,
would. I
yeah,
got you.
This is what has been shared
Yeah,
with
but-
us as input or something that we need to identify and address, right?
Yeah. I was trying to think of, well, I mean, I guess this is communication about those two bodies, but, just making sure that there wasn't not disgruntled, that's too strong, but just trying to make sure that we had they had an outlet. You know, and maybe they don't need one. But again, if we're gonna, yeah, they could, those a-holes at the board weren't listening to me, That's a technical term, but, I don't know. And maybe that's overthinking it, because you're right, they do report to us.
well, that just might bring up an operational thing with those committees, especially the advisory council, because we did hear feedback. I think it was from more than one of the members that they liked that meeting where they each got a chance to speak up individually. I feel like that touched a bit on what you're saying.
Absolutely.
So maybe that we just kind of keep in mind that that's something we might want to do in the next year at some point with that council. I don't see why not. Okay, so it sounds like we have a plan to try. We can always adjust. That will identify a topic at the end of the meeting and identify who's kind of the point person.
And
that
we're
month.
gonna do that starting tonight.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
You're not busy, right?
And then, wait, there's the last section there. So the last section is, talking about potentially improving our connection with other entities, which we definitely, I think, made progress on that during the past year. I think everyone here presented at various meetings. And trying to think about this idea in a reasonable way, time wise. So not going to not expecting that whoever's identified goes to every single one of those meetings. But potentially that we have someone identified kind of for each of these entities as just they kind of keep an eye on, what's happening with that partner.
Yeah.
As I think, the city's doing that. So what do you think of that idea? Yes, to start.
No, I mean, I like it. I mean, just maintaining those kinds of relationships, and not having it just be, we're not having it be when we engage with them, there's something we need. The thing that I would think about is what is a moment within their calendar that's meaningful? Like if ours is July to June, And I, you know, I don't know what that would look like, but. If, for instance, the Lions Club funds the recreation program in the spring for, I'm making this up.
Mhm.
But, you know, trying to find those moments, within each organization. I don't, if those exist.
Families in the park.
Yeah.
Yeah, structured time. Yeah,
I'm happy to go to the meeting, one of the, you know, some of the meetings. I'm trying to figure out what would be the benefit of it, I guess, is what I'm trying to think. Like, for what, because, well, I guess, just in terms of communicating with the other board members, I guess it gives you, you know, it's for that, I suppose. I remember hearing that the board should really be kind of working with their board, I suppose, so I guess if there's communication, that seems been obviously beneficial, yeah, I mean, as long as it wasn't a waste of time, I guess that's what I'm trying to just get to, is if you guys think it'd be valid and you actually think it's worth the time, I'm happy to commit. But at the same time, if it just seems like we're gonna just be standing there, sitting in a chair, you know, for no reason, then I'm not sure if that's worth my time.
I would say also, I would say the value is relationship building. A lot of it is them just seeing you, but you also don't need to attend the entire meeting, and they will not feel offended at all if at the very beginning during public comment, you just speak up and just say, hey, I'm attending the meeting tonight. Just wanted to, like, you know, just kind of a little reminder of like who you are and what we're doing, and maybe a brief update or something, and then sit for the first 30 minutes or so, and if they get into a big long thing about like permitting and stuff, shit that has nothing to do with
Oh,
parking
like
back.
pocket money.
Exit stage left,
Yeah.
nobody will care.
Yeah,
Like,
that's a good point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think that investing, you know, 30 minutes a couple times a year
Yeah.
into one of these groups to like just remind them that we're out there and who we are and give them a little update is definitely worth it.
Good to me.
And just checking their agendas, like skimming through their agendas. Seeing if there's anything that's Parks and Rec related, just so we're kind of in the know that we know however we decide to assign these, like, okay. Jace is keeping an eye on what's happening at the city, for instance. Because we don't really have, I mean, I think Mark tries to track all of that. That's a lot. And so I think it would help.
But even then, sometimes things happen, like I know there's the facilities committee for the school district, which I was just like, oh my gosh, like, why didn't we get on that thing? We should be on that. And I look at it and I saw the euro, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
but
oh,
it
heck yeah, like,
conflicted with another meeting that I had and I couldn't attend all of them.
yeah. But it's nice to know like that we've got, you know, some representation too, there that we can, you know, and get that report back on things too.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I know, I think one person from each place. And we've been doing some type of work, community work, engagement work, so.
Yeah.
That's good, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be comfortable with the two places that I'm named up there, so either one of those. I don't have any connections, particularly with the county. I've been living in the city my whole 20 years I've lived here. I mean, and then port, I don't have a particular connection with any specific person on the port.
I've been to the port before. They had their executive sessions first, so.
Oh.
you know,
I've been working
so-
with the city a lot,
Yeah.
with the school districts that I wouldn't mind, but
We could do, I could also just tag team these, like we could just,
Oh.
you go to this one, I'll go to the next one. whatever.
sounds good to me.
Well, we're not talking about all of them.
No, I know,
Right,
but those
okay,
two
yeah,
or
yeah,
whatever.
Okay,
Not
I,
happy.
I would probably go to more than, I mean, I'd probably do a couple myself, even if Martha went to a couple, it probably can't hurt if. You know, we're at a few of them.
I mean, if I have to go for something else, I'll just go for this too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, so. Mike Port, Meade County. Brian, are you okay with,
Yeah.
since you already kind of have established some connections there too?
Yeah.
And then you're saying for you, city?
City and the school.
Okay, so you're both gonna be city and school.
And I mean, the port also, I've made a pretty good connection with one of the commissioners there, but whatever works, I mean,
I have interest in going to Smithfield County as well, so I think that, like Jason was saying, we can definitely,
yeah, well, then put, yeah, you can put my name down for port too.
Yeah.
And just with that school district, understood PTOs? Too much?
That
I mean,
really extends it a lot,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I'm happy to not, that I felt like, and I don't know, Cause the vote was the vote, but I felt like that was more of a grassroots interface, you know?
It was definitely beneficial, for sure, just,
Oh.
all of, because I talked to most PTOs, and I would say that that was extremely beneficial, as far as just more voter contact, I suppose, and I think the parents who are there, they're gonna be the ones who are gonna persuade the partners to vote a certain way, because they're already engaged and, there, and so it was pretty, I think it's a good group for sure. But as far as rotating that through constantly, that's probably a little much, like especially with all the different schools on monthly meetings. The school district's probably reasonable.
All right, well, it sounds like we have a starting point from there. Okay. Great. Okay, so this isn't really communications, but, I guess it kind of is. We talked, I think at 2 meetings now about a volunteer appreciation event. We had set a date, then we pushed it back because there was so much going on, it wasn't gonna be possible. We potentially have an approach that would be feasible. Want to kind of get your thoughts on this, and also if you like this idea, see if there is someone amongst the 5 of us who would be willing to help co-plan it with me, or it could be 2 other people if they want to take it on.
Where would it be?
Here,
Here at
a pool party.
On the 29th?
What date is shut down, the week of shutdown?
It starts that Monday.
That's the Saturday before school starts
Yes.
and before shutdown.
Can you guys do the dog swim again? Can we throw it back?
No, I was.
Not until the last day. Yeah.
Last day before
Gotta
the
do
pool
that.
closes for the rebuild.
Perfect. As long as it's somewhere again, one more time.
Yeah.
It was a
Without-
fun event.
Yeah, I'm willing to support as well, and whatever those dates are gonna align well with, if we're doing it right before shutdown or trying to do it right after reopening, but once it reopens, you have water polo and everything else that you're gonna be tripping over, right?
Yeah, I push for that Saturday. School starts on the 31st, and a little last huzzah here would be reasonable, and but yeah,
I mean,
don't have to care about that.
it is the first day of elk season, so I can like adjust a little bit. Navigate.
And we really would need active involvement from the board, that it can't be staff doing it all, really. And the current idea that's here is intended to be, simple, hopefully to implement, pool, like no, announcements, no burgers, just a few kind of activities that we can have up, and pool party, just kind of fun, get together. Thank you to the many,
Thank
many
you.
volunteers.
The barbecue.
Mike was looking forward.
Yeah, Mike,
The grill right there.
if you wanna be grill master, we could consider that. This was written without having a grill.
Mike knows his way around
Nice
everything.
too, they probably let you.
Yeah, see?
Should be right next.
Wheel it over.
Yeah, I can help you with that.
Yeah, I can step in and help in some way too, I'm sure, in a pretty good way. That weekend, I think I'm stuck here, so I will be.
Let me get back to you.
Okay,
I just want to double check that I
Okay.
don't
Yes.
double pump myself or
Yes.
something.
So and Mike's
This-
barbecuing, so we got 4 potential.
And we're talking 3-4 hours afternoon.
It would
night,
probably be
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
Matt, so this
To
would
end the
be
day.
following open swim, so at 5:30, probably start time, end time 7:30. And from staffing perspective, this would probably be, I've only talked with aquatic staff so far, but hopefully this would be an all hands on deck staffing thing, but since we have volunteers in every department, where we obviously want to show that appreciation, so, to all the people who've been helpful, so, need to confirm that with all of them, but, if we can work around that, their schedules.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm sure we got some random things we can throw in there.
Great. Do you have anything you wanna bring up about it, or?
No, I mean, I think that, I think we'll need to have a party planner. And then, you know, we can start working on, you know, it would be communication, making a plan, and maybe what would be helpful is one key person to help coordinate with one key staff member, to help implement that party.
Yeah, so I feel like I've offered to
Okay.
do that. I just request that another board member also
Yeah,
step up to be really co-chair,
co-helping.
co-chair of the event.
Yeah.
If
Yeah,
you're willing to do
I
that.
think you can do that, yeah.
Okay,
Right.
Sorry to
thank you.
wrap my head around what that all entails, but I think I can do that.
I do
Got
think
you.
that if we
Got it.
keep it
Yeah.
simple,
Yeah,
the key is simple
Yes.
and it's gratitude
yeah,
and fun.
yes.
And we have a place where people can have fun. Yep. So,
Party time.
yeah,
Okay, great. Thank you.
cool. I don't recommend popcorn.
No, I, goldfish, that's it, just like lots of goldfish.
No popcorn or gold. The things you have to clean up following an event. Something to keep in mind. All right, moving on to the financial sustainability policy. A couple of things just kind of for the night and maybe moving forward. So the intention of tonight is to basically give you an overview of what's been going on in recreation and how that meets with our financial sustainability policy. It's not to make decisions tonight. And so we can definitely talk and have questions and that sort of thing, but this is intended to be informational and help put some of the pieces of the puzzle together. And then hopefully carve a path forward for the next couple of meetings. I think with the passage of the operations levy, the community gave us our marching orders on what they'd like to see, which is that they would like to see recreation services continue. And so we have, and you have, you know, the responsibility to figure out how to make sure that that continues in a sustainable fashion. So this is the reason why we wanted to talk about all of those things. So I figured we'd kind of start from the beginning about financial sustainability policy. So back in the early 2020s, when we took over recreation programming, we decided that we needed to, that we had no facilities, we had no fields, we did not have the operational dollars to take over recreation programming, and we knew that we needed a plan. The school district gave us a 3-year runway of transitional funding to help get us started. We knew we needed to switch gears and find additional funding. So we contracted with the company 110% to help us create a strategy to help with recreation services. That strategy was adopted, that policy was adopted by the board in December of 2022. And it helped to create the framework for our recreation services, but really all of our, so when we're talking recreation services, it's all of our services that include recreation programming, aquatics, parks, all of those things combined. So it's all encompassing, and it balances how we use our money from taxes with the fees that people come in and pay. And so it gave us a strategy for those things. So basically it gave us a strategy for determining where we should provide taxpayer dollars for services and where participants should pay a greater share. It recognizes that this policy recognized that some things were for the greater good, like a park, for example, is something that we want people to go to and enjoy. They don't pay an entrance fee to go to to the park. And that some things were for more individual good and that would come with a fee. All right. So as part of the financial sustainability policy, we identified services, and that's on the right-hand side. And there are these categories that we use to lump all of the activities and recreation programming. And so we have approximately 10 different categories. And then we put them on a continuum that basically looked at where they fall. Is it for the greater good, the common good, or is it more for exclusive use? And so things like open access activities like a park would have fallen under something that would have zero entry or 100% subsidy, right? And then things like food, like that we sell at the front desk, those are for individual benefit. So we try to recover all of our costs and more to make a profit on those types of things. And then in between, we have all of the things in between. So like our Learn To programs, for example, like Learn To, like beginner basketball, beginner chess. It could be a variety of things would fall under those developmental activities. And then things like user groups who rent our facilities would fall under the rental. So we're going up in the amount of money that we're trying to recover from those types of activities and developing a strategy for how much we're recovering from those things. So that has been when we have been planning for recreational services. This is what we've been using as our guiding light in helping us to determine fees for programs. So the recreation fund is an interesting, so we have the strategy, right? So it's recognizing that in some cases, people are gonna pay for things. In some cases, they're not gonna pay the entire amount of the cost, right? So this is where subsidy is coming in, right? And in the recreation fund, we created a fund that is basically acting as an enterprise fund. It's tracking the expenses the expenses out and the money coming in. In the beginning, the enterprise fund, we had the 3-year runway and from the school district, and that was acting as basically our subsidy, right? So we were having this money that came in and we had it created a beginning fund balance essentially for us once we started tracking those expenses. And then, so then this money came in. Do you want to help out, Mark?
Yeah, originally the recreation fund, we had the incoming money from the school district that was kind of like a subsidy on it. It was its own fund. We didn't have anything that really funded for other general fund, except for then we saw that there were some things like the management of the programs, the office supplies, parts of our insurance and things that weren't being tracked. So in the second or third year, we started adding a fund or a dollar amount that went back to the general fund out of this to offset the reality that it actually was being subsidized by certain things in the general fund. And so we've continued to track the recreation fund separate, just as we do with aquatics and with parks. We kind of have separate funds. Those are part of the general fund, but we just track them in different ways. And this one is in its own separate fund outside of the general fund, but now we have the levy dollars. Which will be going in, and that's $150,000 this year. That is meant to kind of replace that school district amount that went in there and help subsidize that. So when Marcy was talking about the continuum and the subsidy and everything there, when you're looking at that and saying like that there is a program under like, say, education and enrichment activities, that's at a 40 to 20% subsidy. That's that dollar amount, that between 40 and 70 or 20% is that dollar amount, the money that's coming in from the levy funds now, that's in there, that's where we're capturing that. And so it's recognizing that most of these things that we have, until you get up into this higher level right here, do take some sort of taxpayer subsidy. If we were to do the actual cost of some of these programs, it would cost quite a bit more. And so that's some of the stuff that we're going to be getting into a little bit later, is figuring out like, is this number at the right spot? Really, as we've gone through and we've looked at this, it's not. We need to make some adjustments here, and we'll get in with a little bit more detail in the future. In future meetings to kind of show like where we'd like to adjust in there and show you maybe some modeling too, to show you like what what a summer camp actually does cost, what summer camp registration costs. We got a little flack this year for the cost of our summer camp, and where that subsidy, where that would be, because when we factor in all the different things with our full-time staff, all of our extra costs, our indirect costs and our direct costs, they are pricey to run.
And I think the place where the pieces of the puzzle have gotten confusing is that we have been operating with money. We've had school district money, and now we have taxpayer dollars coming in for the levy dollars. So you can go to the next slide in a second. And
Right,
Yeah.
so I just wanna kind of orient my brain. So this is kind of the philosophical underpinning of why we price things the way we do.
yes,
And now that we're normalizing recreation, we're no longer treating it as an enterprise fund in the sense that we're receiving external funding for it. We're now funding it through this levy. We're able to, kind of apply this proposal to how we want to fund it. Or how we
yes,
want to approach
so
it.
yes, and so the untangling is that the enterprise fund is, and we're going to continue to operate the recreation fund in its own individual fund, and it probably should be labeled slightly different. It is in an independent fund
Yeah.
to track its revenue and expenses. We have, for 3 years, we took in money from that transitional money from the school district. So that was essentially a subsidy, right? That we could provide then out, right?
And it was more than the levy dollars.
More, but not much more.
Yeah,
Around
yeah.
175,000. Right now, this year we put in about 150.
150,000,
Yeah.
The
right?
levy is not
It's-
increasing.
No,
It's-
No.
yeah.
Right,
I know
right.
it makes-
And we now have, and then we had a year where we had no funding, or a little over a year where we had no funding, right? And then moving forward, now we have money allocated towards it, so.
So this is just a start, as you've already said, we're gonna go into this more in depth,
Yeah.
but yeah, clearly. But they got really granular here, 110, and as we're talking about the funding matching now with the levy versus what the school had before. I mean, we have to decide what's gonna fit into the cost recovery, because some things here had to have stood out to you as anomalies. They
Right,
may need to be cut still regardless, based upon not fitting into this recovery, correct?
so we still have work to do, so,
Okay.
like, we still need to uncover some of the things that were happening. So if you could go to the next slide. So over the course of these years, we've had a lot of things. We had the strategy. They were supposed to work. The the separate funding, keeping and tracking it, and the strategy were supposed to work together to create the plan. However, during that time, we had multiple things happen concurrently that affected our recreation fund. We had, the contract program structure change where we had multiple contracted programs move and no longer work under our structure and began working with the school district. So that was almost $100,000 loss in revenue for us. We also had the transition funding from the school district. And in our final year, it was around $134,000 that we lost from our final year of taking in that money. And so we were more than a year without any funding. At the same time, our expenses have continued to increase. This year, it does look like we're ending at a slightly better position expense-wise, which is good news. We're really working to track that and keep track of our expenses. But the result is that our beginning fund balance, essentially what has been acting as that subsidy, has decreased dramatically, right? And so that is where we now know that we have, you can go to the next slide, so that we have these good things that are happening. So voters said, we believe recreation programming is important. We want it to stay. So this year we budgeted $150,000 of that levy of those levy dollars towards the recreation fund. Moving forward, some of that question is going to be, is that enough? And is it going to help us get to where we need to be?
This was fiscal year 24-25 that they did this study though, right? That's what it says.
Well, yeah, I mean, when I
So-
was reading it, this is from, it's from before any of us were on the board.
Oh,
The
what?
original one was passed in 2022, and then we did an update
Yeah.
refresher with some of the stuff for the dollar side of it in 24-25.
But that means some of these impacts you're speaking to weren't this year that we've been measuring. So we're going back a year. We're going to fiscal year 24-25 is what they measured here.
Yeah, yes, you're right. So data, to your point, and it's a forever issue in my mind, is that the numbers are always changing and the situation is always changing. So the data needs to be almost updated in real time to be able to get your accurate portrayal of how you're doing, right? So Mike is saying in the strategy update, it was all 24-25, which is true, right?
Yeah, so everything you're speaking to here will be exaggerated even more so
Exactly, yes.
than what was captured.
But yes, but like, our guidance to you is not going to be, you should charge $4.37. I mean,
No.
so we just need to make sure, I just want to maintain an appropriate altitude.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, agreed.
I mean, because, if we have a cost recovery goal of 75% or whatever it is, you would report out on deltas, not on how we price the pool.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So, moving forward, we have this $150,000 that is coming in. We have the IGA with the school district. So what we do know is that is in the works. So I'm going to touch on it briefly. Essentially where we are is that we've made progress with the school district versus where we were over a year ago, which is great news. Both entities recognize that we both contribute, to the greater good for our community, and that we should be helping each other and partnering with each other to provide those services. So that's positive, and I think that the school district definitely really sees and recognizes some of the work that we have provided to their students for years and years and years, which is really good.
Just to add to that, I just want to be realistic for the board so that you understand too, as we're putting this IGA together. I would classify it as a little bit of a 2 steps back, 1 step forward. When Percy says that we've made progress in the last year, we've made progress in what was kind of how they had kind of ripped a Band-Aid off with us. It is still a less we were getting less in this IGA than we had in the original one that we had gotten. Besides just the fact that we had the actual dollars from them. In this one coming out, we will be having to pay for any programs that are contract pay programs. Which we used to not have to pay for any programs that we or pay for the space in their facilities for anything. So we've been able to get a little bit, we're working on things with the school districts, but it's not as good as what we had done in 2021.
Well, what's the agreement with the sports that use the pool?
So right now it's acting as so essentially we're saying we both provide these wonderful places. We provide the pool to learn to swim, school learn to swim. We provide this place for high school athletics and their PE classes. So they're using, the plan would be to allow them to use our facilities and then at no cost. And then the plan would be for us to be allowed to use their facilities at the same no cost.
As long as it's not a contract pay thing, in which case there is a cost for us.
Right, and then we define what is considered normal.
So like the fields, if we use the fields, do we have to pay for those?
If it is a contract program, meaning that we have a contractor that's running the program and we're doing like a revenue split with them. But if we are hiring the staff and we are putting it on as our program, like summer camps, we are not paying for this facility. But that's why a lot of the contract programs like soccer and lacrosse and flag football all left was because if we had to charge them anyways for the fields, they weren't getting any sort of a deal going through us, and then they would have to give 30% of the revenue toward us. So that's so they decided to book directly through the school district.
Is there any difference between the school learn to swim and the high school sports and that? Because I think the lack of leverage really comes down to the fact that we definitely want to get swim lessons for the youth of the community. And granted, water polo and high school swim team are only short seasons compared to what we're technically asking for, even with contractors at the field, but have we separated those two, or did they just get those for free as well? High school sports and swim lessons
High school sports and swim lessons.
are all free for them. Okay.
But the concession was we get to use their facility,
All of their facilities.
not a contract.
What's the percentage of contract that haven't bailed yet versus?
Most of the contract, the big contracts have bailed, so we still do a couple of contract programs, but they're smaller, like more like a camp or something like that.
Yeah.
But as far as like the large, big, long sports programs that made a lot of revenue, those ones left.
And so then the big piece of the puzzle in the revenue side of things is going to be learning how to be creative to increase our revenue and decrease our expenses, right? There's also grant dollars that we can continue to work on, but as we all know, grant money is not guaranteed.
Just like operations, so is the school district like checking? Like, how does this work for them to verify? Is it a contracted program or is it a Parks and Rec program? Like, if you, instead of hiring your summer camp person that you have, if you had contracted with Mitchell Point Camp to offer summer camps and then the registration were through Parks and Rec, like, is the school district like checking, like, oh,
They're not asking
Or
for,
is it, it
Yeah.
is a little bit of a weird distinction on their part.
it's strange because this is also how they ran it completely when they were under community ed. I pulled up the 2019 community ed brochure and highlighted them, and over 80% of their programs were contract programs. That they ran themselves that way. But to your question, it's kind of an honor system sort of thing.
Mhm.
I mean, they know some of them, like they know youth soccer was a contract program for these ones. But
And they have they have the Youth Sports Alliance.
Yeah,
So they are organizing a facility, basically as facility scheduling, top slot, scheduling time every quarter.
Mhm.
And so if you're part of that, they bring all of those groups into the room at the same time to basically problem solve any, scheduling, things. So.
Is that gonna happen again?
Yeah, what about the, where did you guys fit in the scheduling with the IGA thing?
So the IGA puts each of us at the top, second under the other. So obviously, when we have for example, we run the pool, we have top priority of scheduling our programs at the pool. Then the school district has second priority, so the same would be for us at their facilities. The school district programs have top priority at their facilities.
And then contracts.
And then contracts.
those contracts or other. groups.
Right.
So like, and that is one of the things that we were able to get back. That was one of the ones that they had got from us originally, and we were able to kind of negotiate that.
And in the agreement, it recognizes that, of course, all of the groups will work to, scheduling is a practical thing. Of course, people are gonna be willing to compromise on various items, and that the intention will always be goodwill and, partnerships and working together to make the wheels turn.
Did by any chance have feedback on the soccer alliance? I had
The
parents
Youth
that were
Alliance?
very disappointed at their,
Oh,
The Sports Alliance or Columbia Gorge Youth Soccer, which.
no, I can't remember the name, but it was whoever took over the soccer.
Okay, that would be Columbia Gorge Youth Soccer.
They, a handful of parents were disappointed. They didn't have trophies. I mean, it was very disorganized.
yeah, I don't.
Well, here's things here and there, but it's nothing official, but speaking.
Okay.
So, but that does bring up a good point so we have this IGA. So what's next? We have the 150,000, we have this IGA. Over the next bit of time, it's important for us to begin gathering some of that information, right? On questions that we may have, feedback that we may want to hear from in the community, begin analyzing that information to make sure that moving forward with recreation, that we develop a strong plan for the next 5 years that will keep us through and make us sustainable. So Mark, if you could go to the next slide.
Is that the anticipated IGA duration, 5 years?
Mhm. And so now the other point of the IGA that still needs to be identified, which is of course, the big question that everybody has what happens when the pool closes, when we go to rebuild. So some of those, things will need to be worked out, but some possible solutions would be, if we could pay to use the facilities, we could, we could pause, we could say that the IGA is good for the time until the pool closes, and then we redefine those terms. Basically, we need to figure out that part of the IGA puzzle, what happens when the pool closes, right? And how will the terms of our relationship change or stay the same?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but did the school district abide by the terms of the previous IGA in You have
It
more
was,
context?
it's a little bit complex because the IGA originally was supposed to, include, uh, all of the facility stuff on like what the cost share and everything with the facility was. We were gonna come up with this, the facility plan that we were gonna do as a separate thing. And then we signed the IGA originally and didn't really have all of those details worked out. The IGA had lots of things like we get first priority. It had like things of that will, you know, share stuff, but it didn't have like the actual dollar amount for the facility stuff. That one was closer to an agreement on it. And so they backed out of what we are kind of had originally agreed, but that wasn't part written into the IGA. This next IGA, we're putting all that stuff in there with the actual dollar amounts of like how much we are getting and all of that. So it was we never ended up doing the signing the facility side with them. That was supposed to happen, but Rich Boltingborn left and we were when Bill came in, it took about a year for him to finally get it ready to start putting it on the agenda, and then they started kind of changing stuff, so.
So we're working on that. We do plan to present a draft to you likely next month. We're meeting with the school district soon, in early August to discuss, some remaining questions, and then we'll move forward with being able to present you with that. But that leads us, I realize that there's a typo. That we have questions that we're gonna need to be thinking about over the next bit of time. So, you know, how do we want to work towards a sustainable future with recreation, and what does that mean? And, you know, it's a pretty large piece of the puzzle. What role do user fees play in funding rec programs? And how do we want to approach that? What does affordable recreation mean in our community? It means, you know, it's a pretty big topic and can mean something different for everybody. How can partnerships help maximize our resources? How do we help reduce those financial barriers for people and make programs accessible? And then what changes should we make and what should we be prioritizing? And how do we ensure that we know what people want?
When I was reading through these, one of my first thoughts was, I feel like this should be prefaced by what is our overall vision for the recreation program? I feel like these are like sub questions under that. And then one other, just kind of, maybe it's like a clarifying question for staff, is the report covers like everything, all the services Parks and Rec does, right? But it feels like this discussion was just the recreation program, the enterprise fund. So to what degree in the coming months are you anticipating we're, you know, analyzing all of this and all of it versus just the recreation program?
So I think that we need to focus mostly on recreation. You're right that the strategy and the plan cover the entire part of it. And so I think that we should talk about that. The structure that we have for the pool, for aquatics specifically, we can address whatever questions and concerns, I think. It's a pretty stable in the terms of how it's programmed and structured. I don't really anticipate dramatic change, but there absolutely can be improvements in analyzing what we're using the data to analyze and to trim down in areas where we have. It's always going back and taking a look.
It would also
right?
seem like it'd be a lot of work to do that right now for a pool that's coming down, and you're gonna have to revisit that stuff. pool
Yes.
Specific when the new pool gets built.
Yes,
So
and
as
that-
far as energy, the rec seems to be the
Yes.
highest use of best use of energy for now.
Such a great point, and perhaps, you know, that's kind of tabled, to your point, towards closer to reopening, you know, so like, what do we
Yeah.
need to do and how do we prioritize? Making sure that the pool stays something that can be affordable, and usable and accessible for our community. But that could probably be while we're in construction.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
That.
Um,
Okay, I mean, just along those points, I mean, I think we had some discussions about, you know, entry fees and the pool and everything. I would have liked to have seen this probably a little bit more directly.
mhm.
Just in hindsight, not, and I'm the newest member, you know, I was not aware that this necessarily existed. And I think we had to respond to, you know, very clear input from the public. So maybe, you know, there would have been a deviation from this document anyway,
Mhm.
but, you know, knowing that we were, would have been powerful to say, you know, we're, cost recovery for the pool is 67%, we're shooting for 75% even with the, I mean, you know, again,
Mhm.
making up numbers. But, I just, you know, to me, deviating from a standard is fine, as long as you acknowledge it.
Mhm.
Yeah, again, I like the idea of having, you know, the philosophical grounding in, you know, recovering and, or not, you know, as it were. But just again, having this have pride of place in terms of our discussions when we do discuss pool entry fees and things like that. And in district, out of district, that kind of thing. But again, we were responding to a different set of needs when we did have that, you know, 3 or 4 months ago. So, or 2 months ago, whatever it was. Yeah, just my observation with this.
One other question I had when I was looking through this, is this, so this visual, I mean, I guess it's reflected in a few ways through here. But the subsidies that are listed at the bottom, you know, for each category. Were those devised as the optimal amount or the actual feasible amount? Based on our funding level?
Probably more the optimal amount. Yeah, I wish I could say it was the feasible amount. We didn't really know what the feasible amount was when we were setting all of this
Okay.
because we had not ran it ourselves. And so that was kind of the difficult thing when we updated it the second time after that, we still, every year has been kind of different with how we've ran recreation programs. A lot of like, we're finally, I think, getting into a groove where it's been like, we're having some consistency, but even like, you know, the years where all of a sudden we're not doing soccer and we're not doing these other things and everything, we'll see like these big fluctuations and such. And so that's where Marcy was saying like that we almost have to continually update this thing each year as we go along, but it's pricey every time we do one of these updates and such. It takes a lot of staff time. We go into this thing, I think that, you know, on a 2 or 3 year cycle to do that. I mean, it's getting better because we've got like a spreadsheet now that's a little bit easier to track this things and different things like that. But it's you know, we have to bring a consultant in to help us with it. It's not something that we can really do on our own. And so I think that it probably was based on a little bit of like a best practices things, the way other people are doing it as well. And then a little bit more of a philosophical thing. Well, I'll say the main thing is the order in which those things are in.
Mhm.
And that's I think the you know, the most important thing that you get right is like deciding what your categories are, because they're kind of different for every Parks and Rec agency, but deciding what your categories are and then just saying what are the things that we value a subsidization more on. And most of that should go along with individual benefits versus community good. But there's certain things like life safety we put down at the very low part, even though some of that might be a more individual benefit, we feel like that is a community good thing when we're saving lives, you know, on something like that.
Learning to swim.
So we're learning to lifeguard, like our lifeguard our program, we're not looking to recover 100% of our costs. It's a 40-hour process, we're trying to get more lifeguards out there. And so that one would be down at a lower level, even though it's an individual benefit toward one person. So there are some little things that you look at for your own specific area, but it's more where you put those along the line. That's the important part right there. And now is the part where I think we need to take that look of not looking at just the philosophical thing, but seeing what we can afford. If we have said we are putting $150,000 of levy money toward recreation, well, now we know how much we've got to deal with right here. We know how hard the grants are to get and what we can expect and what our budget is. We know our costs a little bit better. We know now that there's some more facility costs for some of our programs and everything. We're starting to figure some of that stuff out. So now I think it's a much easier for us to hone in and say, this works for us more realistically.
Right, which is essentially what we have done with the pool. I mean, you know, there are unexpected things that happen with the pool, right? But we can anticipate with the pool, the programs and services that we provide, the revenue that we think that we're gonna get in, and we can track that pretty well. And the goal is to be able to do that with recreation programming and have stability, right, in terms of what we know that we can expect. And that's where I think we need to get to, and we just haven't quite gotten there yet. What would be helpful for you moving forward in terms of next steps?
I mean, those are gonna be my future questions, that optimal, feasible with the philosophical, as we're going around here now, knowing what the IGA is about to look like. Do we do any more contracted sports? What are our capacity to do all of it on our own with that cost balance? Because if the philosophy is to make sure that we are providing equitable services for those who can't afford club sports, well, yeah, maybe it was optimal to take a little bit more off the top when we contracted out. But now that's not really the case, and that's really not our philosophy. So maybe we are just trying to build capacity so we run everything in-house. I mean, that's kind of where I'm wondering how all this is gonna play out and what that
You
looks
know,
like.
I mean, it becomes complicated because then the flip side is either, let's take like there's a small dance class group that comes in and uses that contracts with us, and I'm not sure that that program would be able to occur without support like we
They're
have.
not gonna take their own registration for like kind of a one-off class of 20 people.
Yeah.
Do they
Right.
run through the school as well? or do they
Right.
have their own
Because the
studio?
school district doesn't do their registration, that's the thing, any of these contract programs that are going straight with the school district have had to figure out how to take in their own registration and such. And that's one of the issues that we have with it, is we're really trying to get all the registration in one place. And now there's these people that are having to figure out who it is that's running these different programs, running and everything. So we still, I think, want to try and figure out how to bring some of those in. But I think that that's one that we'll get into a little bit more when we don't want to get into like all the weeds.
Right,
on
yeah,
all of that.
right, but I mean, it comes, I think that when you make a decision, it has different effects based on how you're looking at it, is my point, you know. So if we were to cut out contracted programs, then it reduces the number of opportunities for people in our community to have it. We can be that one-stop shop for providing services if we were allowed to have that as an avenue, right? So it's and you know, what do we continue to push for? Do we continue to try to push for that type of thing, or do we say, okay, maybe we'll try to take on some of these smaller programs and fold it in, but it increases our expenses on the other end, right?
Well, that's what we gotta look at, is like,
Right.
is it worth, I mean, some of these programs, the school district is still not that expensive. So we're talking like $25 an hour
Right.
for a gym or something. And so if a program meets 8 times, should we just spend the $200 for the space, or hire a whole bunch of staff and put this whole thing, I mean, it's gonna be
That's,
cheaper for us
that's
to run
definitely something,
through a
I mean,
contract.
that needs to be talked about.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Because, yeah, I think, I mean, we're not gonna come to an agreement or like
No,
Yeah.
a proposal tonight.
No.
But I think it's definitely, the IGA is not the exchange is not fair. In my,
It's, yeah,
so, but
the,
But it's just understanding this better, like when I
Yeah.
look at adult volleyball here and I'm like, why is the cost recovery so low on that? Like, what's going on there? Cause if it's $200 for the gym space. Are we running that or like, I just have more of those questions to get to the points that you're all making and what decisions we decide.
so what you'd like us to do is get a little deeper into showing you examples on the financing and
Yeah.
things like that.
So my request is not just, I mean, I know we talked about earlier, but honestly, the more real-time information, so that if you want us to give you an opinion on certain, like what programmings are work, or, you know, chime in. And I think as a board, then we can decide, like, look, this thing is at 40% cost recovery, but really, this was one of the ones that should have been at 80. And so maybe that's one of the ones we consider removing or changing. So I think without that information, it's kind of all, this is all moot, because
Yeah.
unless you actually know what the current things are actually benefiting, and then we can all discuss like, hey, this is only getting 20% cost recovery, but this was a really important program, so this is why this needs to stay. So for us to have, I think, an educated like feedback on it, we need those numbers.
That's good feedback.
So that could be looking like an update.
Yeah, and what I would also say is, we talked a little bit about with like I just want to try to set your expectations for bringing this out. At the next meeting, we will be talking about the IGA basically and not really getting into some of this stuff. Marcy and I had a conversation earlier about like staff capacity for things right now and where we're at coming out of summer and everything. And I said, if there's anything that can be moved a little bit further on into the fall and such, this sounds like it's going to take some more work and research and everything. And I don't want to have you think that like we'll be coming back in September with all of this stuff. It might be a little bit pushed into a little bit further out into the fall and such as we're doing some of this stuff. We just knowing that we've got some a lot of things coming up in September with shutdown and the state conferences in September, and we're losing a couple weeks there of and I don't think we're gonna squeeze it all in.
Well, this is still about trying to figure out the
Yeah.
philosophy for like a year, 2 years, 3 years, so whether it
It's
takes you a
long-term
couple of
planning.
months, that's reasonable.
Yeah, I just wanted to, when we
Yeah.
said earlier that we're gonna be talking about this fall, I wanted to set expectations that that if anything's gonna get pushed, and just trying to think of like all of our staff capacity, that we might be pushing some other stuff.
I think that's gonna be the biggest launching point for where we figure out how we make this work, and how we keep it sustainable.
Well, for me, the launching point is also the like, what is our vision or whatever, however, like, what is the big picture? What, you know, thinking about, are we providing just for youth or youth and adult? Like, I feel like so far it was inherited from community education. And I feel like the approach has been kind of keep that going.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're talking about getting into this in detail, I feel like we're at a good point to say, okay, what's our version of
well,
that?
it's keep it going, but they've changed it. I mean,
True.
things have been.
Yeah,
So
Right.
it
Yeah.
can't kind of stay the same
right.
way.
And
So
what,
there's more like a restructuring
right, and
that's needed.
what does the community think?
Yes.
Right, and so, keep having these shower moments where I'm like, we might be
Yeah.
thinking that we have this idea that it is soccer, that, or, you know, it is dance or whatever it is, that is the most important thing, but what is it that the community thinks?
Well,
Yep.
another survey moment.
Yeah, so it's almost like we really need to start with number 9. I mean, we can't talk about vision, we can't, until we
Well, but
get.
no, I mean, to your point, Christie, I mean, I think that this is the moment to do vision.
Yeah.
And not consider, that's harsh, but not consider the community, because it is structurally what are we capable of, not what they want. And what is our vision for what a recreation program could be, because we've not had that experience.
Yeah.
And funding it all our own, so I mean, we are in a new era to where we do need to have that kind of overriding.
Well, I would also say the election kind of said 9, answered the 9 for it to some degree, like 9 is saying like, hey, look, we want at
We
least what
want-
you're doing.
Mhm.
Like, you know, at least maintain some kind of youth sports, some
Mhm.
kind of youth activities, summer camps, or, you know, excess, and, you know, if we can, adult stuff too, like, a one-stop shop, as it were, for, you know, something that's gonna be health, fitness, recreation related. I mean, that's really what it should be boiled down, or development.
But that's our
related. Yeah, so,
Yeah.
so I'm saying 9 is, I think, somewhat been answered, so I think we could just jump to the vision and just say our vision
Right.
should be about youth, I mean, I don't think we talk about educating, when it was community ed. Like, you know, I've talked about like knife sharpening classes or, you know, direct, I mean, that, you know, community ed kind of took that on, or community college took those kind of things on. So that's not this version of community ed anymore. This really, coupled with the pool, seems like our vision should mostly about be health, betterment, wellness. And that mindfulness of anything that we're supporting should be, you know, benefiting that, whether it's for adults or youth. And I think that's our focus, not necessarily knife sharpening.
Well, and we're gonna want updated numbers, as you were stating, but eventually we're really discussing thresholds. Like if it's not fitting within there, how long until
Yeah.
that moves along and something else takes its place that does fit within that cost recovery?
Or we acknowledge the deviation and move on. I mean, and.
Yeah, a
and that's
willingness
our
to.
approach.
They were
Yeah,
willing
well,
to lose money on a summer camp because that's a super push. Tons of people need it and it's a
Exactly.
place to stay.
Yeah.
So
And then-
those kind of comments,
Right.
that's what we need to figure out.
Well, and that's I'm glad you brought that up on, you know, summer camp, because
Yeah.
when we were doing it, like when we were coming out of the pandemic, we were the only one, and people were like, we've got to figure out a place to put our kids right now.
Yeah.
And we did that. Since then, there's a lot more competition out there. There's a lot of places doing summer camps. And so some of it is, are we really there to compete with private industry? Or on some of these, should we say like, there is already a need being met? We're gonna back out of this.
Pivot your
That's what
capacity.
Jamie Sabak, who does the 110%, that she, one of the things that she really preaches is, if you are in a community that's got tons of yoga and everyone's known for yoga and the yoga, and like obviously Parks and Rec oftentimes thinks, well, we gotta get in on this yoga game. No, you don't.
Yeah.
You stand back and you like, yeah, that's taken care of.
Yeah.
And so.
So
and so-
what's the niche you're gonna fill?
What's the niche we're gonna fill? And when I oftentimes like with like the pool, you know, whenever people are like, why do you guys subsidize the pool by so much? And I'm just like, well, show me a private pool that runs like big swim teams and all this stuff that isn't subsidized. I mean, like maybe in really large cities and people cost a fortune.
Or
Only the wealthy
outrageously
can do it.
expensive.
There are certain things that the government does that we have to do because no one else is going to pick it up, and we do it because of community good and everything. But what we're trying to do here is create a sustainable model where there's a cost recovery, where we can do a couple of these programs that are cash cows or whatever, something that we can take and make a little bit more money on, that then we can use to help come back and subsidize the other programs. It's the trying to make money on our snack bar so that we can put that into swim lessons.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like what we're trying to look at holistically here in this whole
Yeah,
system.
that's interesting.
And it is essentially supposed to, some things are gonna make more money and you're gonna recognize that the other things are not, but it is
But-
for the broader good of the whole system, right? So perhaps next time we'll review the IGA and perhaps we can do a little bit of vision
Yeah, like. a good 10
vision
minutes in.
storming, brainstorming on vision.
I think that'd be a huge, I think that'd be really important. So, I mean, I actually have had feedback from the community that like kind of community ed seems, or Parks and Rec seems a little lost in terms of the rec stuff. Because they're not really sure what to do. They just kind of took on, and again, part of it is you guys just took on what was already there and you're just working with what was there. But really for it to be sustainable with all these other private police people moving on and taking all, you know, a bunch of business, then yeah, let's pivot. Let's figure out what we should fill.
Okay, so it'll be addressing things like your vision for what you want to see in a program, the types of programs.
So the one thing I would ask is, we don't do types of programs. I mean, I think maybe we can't get away from discussing that, but I think having you know, if we're children focused or, you know,
Right.
or whatever, I mean, those kind of
Yeah.
things. I think it'd be more powerful than saying, you know, do you want to fund a chess program? Because it just,
Yeah.
that's not board stuff.
What is our overall purpose?
Yeah.
Good question to figure out. And now that we have this, you know, the levy, at least we have 5 years to that, look, they trusted us to figure out what that purpose actually is. So let's
And
do
and
it.
again, I mean, not that we don't know anything or what we're doing, it's just, this is a new moment.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, let's acknowledge that this is a shift from school district funding to, you know, organic funding of a program that, you know, had some uncertainty around it. And so now we can solidify it. And yeah,
It sounds like a paragraph in a newsletter.
We're not-
the next meeting though, after that one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great.
Would it be beneficial to have either Gio or Jaime here for
Yeah.
that, for the August
Yeah.
meeting then?
I would
Because
love
I
to have them here.
but this is more, especially if I'm gonna be, I'd love to hear two people input who've been doing it for years.
Yeah. Great. We'll invite them to join us for that.
That was one more thing I was gonna bring up while mentioning them, and just when we people come out talking their thought, like that come up, and I was gonna bring this up is if I could put a 2 cents in there is when they're here to present, when they, like we've had them present, could you please have them maybe a slide or something on what's not working or what they need help with? So kind of like they're usually tend to come in with all the good news, which is awesome, and Ally sometimes not so much because the pool's breaking down. But even like, it'd be nice to hear from like Gio and Jaime or somebody from their department or parks or, maintenance saying, hey, look. Things are going well, but this is something that, struggle right now, and I think that would be, I think that'd be potentially really helpful for us to hear if you guys think, if you guys agree.
I agree.
Yeah, that's great feedback. I mean, and I think because of the, measures, we kind of got away from the department, updates, in that regular schedule, so we can work to get back on that schedule
Yeah.
with, the focus being, our rec crew coming next month.
And maybe aquatics the following, since that'll be after the summer's wrapped up and it's busiest time.
Yeah. Great.
We can move on to reports. This is my favorite report of the year, is the July report, because it is the end of the year report, really, so it actually showed the report from June. We did put a little caveat on here that this is unaudited numbers, but this is pretty much what our financial, our end of year, because we do operate on a cash basis. Unless there are any changes, what we ended our year at. And so, it's, this is a good one, 112% for revenue, which is a great spot to be. Most of that is the beginning fund balance, that came in a little bit high there, but also our tax revenue came in at 109.9%, which is great. And so, it usually comes in a little bit higher because we're pretty conservative with how we estimate our tax dollars coming in, but that is good. And then, on the expense side, everything tracks along really nice, where we actually, saved quite a bit of money this year with only, expending 88%. This is pretty low for us for general fund. A large portion of that was payroll expenses is our largest line item. And we're usually very close on payroll. We were at 85.7% of payroll expenses.
Why is that so low?
That is so low because there was an error in the original budgeting the year before where we had counted a position over in aquatics, so aquatics came in lowest on that one. And so we had discovered the error about 3 months into this thing. We were talking about doing some sort of a budget adjustment on it. We ended up not having to do a budget adjustment on it. It's okay if we come in under. And so we went ahead and left it alone there. But that's we did fix that in this next year or in the next budget, which is why the aquatics budget actually came down a little bit. But we came in with a higher ending fund balance than we were anticipating in the budget on that one. And so that's good for going into the next year.
Can you refresh us on the grants? That's over double what was budgeted, which is always great.
Yes.
For
So you're talking about in the general fund?
Yeah,
130, the 136. So yes, we had the Active RX grant, and the grant dollars from the previous year came in like right at the beginning of July, and that was approximately $77,000.
Okay.
And so that money is 2 years worth of grant money for that particular program.
Okay.
Another thing of us being running a cash basis accounting is that we count the money at the day that it comes in and not necessarily for what fiscal year it belongs to. So in the fiscal year before, we had less grant money than we had projected.
No.
Um,
Can you tell me if the new system is tracking the usage of that grant, the Active RX? Because I know MindBody did pour at that.
So you're talking about,
Users who have received that.
we have it all set up in our
So
registration
you
system.
can
so
track those who are coming in. I will be interested to hear more about that in the future.
So, good year for general fund, improvement fund. There were no changes or nothing spent out of improvement fund. All it did was make money and interest. And so, which we did better than we had budgeted for on that one, so that was good. The recreation fund, this is another one that we luckily came in a little bit above with our beginning fund or our ending fund balance, which is will be the beginning fund balance for the next budget. We had estimated that this would end with around 75,000 and it ended at 100,000. So we're about $25,000 ahead on that. So that is good. A lot of that was just summer camp revenue coming in at the end of the fiscal year. Which is now the expenses are coming out in this year, but we were able to bring in a little bit more on revenue on that side at the very end there, which is great. And so yeah, at the end of the year, when you look at the expenses, we did underestimate by quite a bit our actual recreation programs. We did make adjustments in this year budget as well, where the budget for this year is 350,000. So we came down quite a bit on what our estimates for just are bringing in that revenue. So hopefully we were, like I say, we were learning every year, and from this year before, we didn't know about all the different groups that might be leaving to do things on their own and such. And so we had overestimated that quite a bit. And so everything else, our expenses there coming in around 90%. Again, that's good that we came in under our total expenses there. Remember, each of these funds we roll over into the next year, and so it's not necessarily a bad thing to not expend it 100% like you do in the field and a lot of government budgets. Where they're trying to max out their spending every year. We don't do that.
I think we're really gonna calculating error on the grants there because you brought in 10K, but it says percent of budget 0 and just a small
Oh.
detail, but
Yeah, you're right.
is that okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so either there was $0 in grants or 50% of what was budgeted. One of those is off.
Yeah, no, it was 10,000, so
Okay.
that should be a 50,000 or 50% revenue. Yep. And then our SDC final year end. Again, we had a really great year for outside UGB at 146%. And this is just completely flipped from how it used to be. It used to be do way better inside the urban growth boundary. So hopefully development starts to pick up a little bit more in the urban growth boundary. There have been, big development projects like the Grant Road and such, but we didn't collect STCs on that. We didn't see that one.
Are they doing the park last there
Sure
on
seems
Rand
like
Road?
it.
Yeah, have
Yeah.
you been by to see like
The,
progress?
yeah, I have not been inside the area on the progress of it. But yeah, I think that's
Probably the last thing they gotta do.
Yeah. Yeah, this one also, when you look at our totals here at the bottom, and we've got it split out. Inside urban growth boundary used to have quite a bit more money, and now outside urban growth boundary, that's changed. Some of that is that we've spent a lot more on the inside urban growth boundary with, every year we'll spend more money. Paying off the West Side Park property loan. But we did spend money this year out of the outside as well with Parkdale Park. But a lot less than we had anticipated because of the kind of money we got with grants and different things like that. So, But all in all, I think the STC fund is looking good. Especially for where we're at right now and everything that we need to do. So yeah, this is pretty close to what we will probably be seeing in the audit. Speaking of audit, we are getting ready for that. We're doing the earliest audit that we've ever done. When they reached out to us in the springtime, they asked if we could go even earlier, and Kelsey was just like, "Yep, let's do it. I can make it work." So, now we're kind of freaking out, but no, we'll be ready. We are we're getting everything ready. I'm actually having Monica come out here for the audits, just because she knows all of her stuff a lot better, and they when they're here, they have between 3 and 5 people working at our upstairs table for about 3 days, and they're just asking for stuff constantly, and just like, "Hey, I need this, I need this, I need this," and so she knows how to get the stuff and where it all is. So I thought that'd be a good use of her. So she'll be here on site first week of August when we've got the audit going on. So we should be having the audit report coming out to you guys sometime in maybe September or October, which is great. Considering it used to be that they come out in February or something like that. So it's nice that we're getting our audit reports early. I didn't have much for a director's report, so I don't have anything in there on that. And so I could just go straight forward to the beginning of the order.
Well, we need to choose a topic.
Oh,
for
yeah.
the-
Oh, what's needed for the topic for this coming newsletter?
Perhaps, advisory council oversight committee, full progress or, progress made towards an owner's rep. So there's variety of areas in which you could begin to focus.
Well, so, and you anticipate it would go in it would be sent in early August.
So,
Application due the 31st, so it'd be kind of awkward to talk
Be like
about
full
that.
advisory.
Yeah, exactly, with that.
Oh, do we want to use the 31st meeting just to approve the text? We have
Even
that
then.
special meeting.
Well, we could, but it matters more when they're gonna send the email, I think.
Right.
yeah, so I would say that, I mean, the timing is really up to you. But it would make sense to probably send an email that first week of August. Or like by the 10th or the 11th, going into that second week.
We do the recreation. The
Right.
recreation vision, like not stating it, but just saying, hey, this is what we're thinking about.
We want to do that one in August right now.
And then they could potentially show up in August.
Yeah, that we're gonna be working.
So either on
Yeah, that
the,
we talked.
I'd say the
about.
two, either talking about the owner's rep and just what that is and why we're doing it and how important that is to the role of us spending your money logically and fairly, or about the vision.
Or both.
I'd say one of those two things.
I will say the owner's rep thing came up in many of my discussions.
Yeah, I say, and that's timely. I mean, that's like literally happening in the next 2 weeks. So I think that's a reasonable thing to write about and explain to what it is and why we value finding the right person for that job or right people for that job.
And really, it seems like if we did want to be forward thinking, that the recreation topic could be really suitable for
Very nice
the next one, right?
Potentially, yeah.
After you all have done some of that visioning.
Oh, and then the recreation piece would be, hey, come to our September meeting when we further discuss the vision. I got you.
Okay. And if we're doing the rotating idea, I would think it would make sense for one of the two of you to do the next one because you're on the committee to choose the owner's representative and then.
I'm happy to do it.
Felicia, but no, you can do it.
If you want to do it, you're welcome to, otherwise I'm happy to do it. Go for it.
Take it, start us out strong,
All right.
and we'll be talking about it.
We're gonna make sure the AI writes a good one. I'll call through with ChatGPT has money. Just kidding, recording.
Cool. And then I mean, then just to set that expectation, would we want to approve it at the 31st meeting? I just taking advantage of that meeting in other ways, since we are meeting on the.
Well, I'll be
31st.
probably working with Marcy and setting her, or, you know, what I write or what comes up or what needs to be said, and then she could just forward it off to you
Right.
guys to say,
Okay.
yeah, okay,
Yeah.
sounds
This is-
good. Or
this is-
what is
yeah.
she saying, like, no, and so, yeah, whatever, so I think we, instead of having it be official vote, I'd say that we're just gonna make it be more informal for everyone getting a chance to see it.
And then it comes through Marcy. Okay, yep. We avoid illegal meetings.
As long as you, everyone good with, I assume, is that what we're good with, that's what we, okay?
Great.
Anything new on our favorite piece of property?
Oh. Hold off on that.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. Okay, I was hoping we would not, but I am happy to, and we understood.
A good of the order, maybe just kind of FYI, the county recently had a large analysis done on their financial situation and.
Yeah.
It was brought to my attention, probably it might be on your radar as well. It's an interesting read to look at, or at least look at the sections that touch on parks and rec services and how it's done by multiple entities, and even at the county, they have multiple departments that work on that, and that, you know, perhaps it's something that can become more aligned in the future, you know, with the different entities that are doing it. So just kind of bringing that to your attention might be good to just kind of go look at that document and look for the parts where, you know, parks are referenced.
All right.
Okay. So I think that's it then, unless.
Are we good to-
Yeah,
so
so
that-
we do have an executive session for two different topics.
I'll go.
Okay.
Do we make a motion to end?
Yeah, anybody still on one?
Thanks for being.
There is one person online, and so we're going into executive session, so we're going to have to end the online portion of this, because we're meeting in the executive session, so.
You're not ending the meeting.
Right.
So,
Use the phone, lobby.
Yeah.
can you say that we will be entering executive session
Myself.
and that we will not be making any motions or binding decisions at the end, and we're going to end the online portion.
Okay. All right. We will be entering executive session for ORS 192.6602E to conduct deliberations to negotiate real property transactions, and to review and evaluate employment related performance of the chief executive officer of any public body, public officer, employee, or staff member who does not request an open hearing. No decisions will be made in that executive session.
Yep.
And
And we will be adjourning the meeting shortly after.
afterwards. The board will now meet in executive session. All members of the audience are asked to leave the room. No decision may be made in executive session. At the end of the executive session, we will return to the open session.